Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy has more. Peter.
Harris, the vice president spoke for a little bit more than 1 minute in that plainside gaggle that broke the no questions answered streak. But there is no reason to think that her team might need to prep her quite a bit more before she talks for more than 60 or 70 seconds. Case in point, she apparently, according to the New York Times, told a group of uncommitted voters in Michigan that she is open to the idea of an arms embargo, stop shipping some U.S. arms to Israel, which her team immediately had to walk back. Her national security advisor, Phil Gordon, came right out to say VP has been clear she will always ensure Israel is able to defend itself against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups. She does not support an arms embargo on Israel. She will continue to work to protect civilians in Gaza and uphold international humanitarian law. But that's just not going to fly with uncommitted voters who seem to be of the opinion that they had moved the VP on this issue.
This movement has always been about policy shift, about policy change, about saving Palestinian lives in the immediate.
We want her to stop sending bombs to kill people we love.
Vice President Harris, as she tries to establish herself as the top of the ticket, has been looking for places that she can distance herself from President Biden. Gaza policy is believed to be one of those places. But distance from President Biden is going to become a lot harder because next week she is going to be on the campaign trail with President Biden. Harris.
Peter, thank you very much. I want to bring in now the power panel. Richard Fowler, Fox News contributor, and Matt Gorman, Targeted Victory executive, vice president, and former Tim Scott campaign advisor. Richard, I'm going to come to you first. When Harris's aides say that the fractured media landscape, and many in the legacy media, I would assume that's what they mean by media landscape, where trust in traditional news outlets has fallen, and that's why we haven't seen her in an interview. I mean, that would be like ABC, CBS, NBC. What does that even mean? And what, she's not going to sit for anybody then? Just TikTok?
No, listen.
I mean, that's what they said.
As a member of the media, I do think it's important that she does sit down for an interview. And I do believe that she will likely do so. With that being said, in all fairness, I think it's worth pointing out that it's not like Kamala Harris was the candidate of 4 months ago or 5 months ago or even 6 months ago or even 3 weeks ago.
Well, that's no one's fault but your party's. They coordinated her.
Hold on a second. She was the candidate of last week, and there was a lot of things that had to happen between last week and this week and next week as we go towards the convention. And so I do think she'll sit down with the media, but I also think she has to talk to party officials. She has to get to all the battleground states. And in contrast, Donald Trump is going to Montana tonight, a state that's not even in contention.
And what he says is he wants to help people down ticket win because he can, because he's ahead in those states. I'm just quoting him from his news conference that he gave for over an hour ago.
But not by all the recent polls.
But I do have a question about when you say when she became the the presumptive, now completely coronated by a vocal roll call, a digital roll call, now the Democratic nominee. When voters voted through the primary season, Matt, they thought they were getting Joe Biden. They got hurt. That's fine. That's how they want to handle it on their side. But then you can't complain when the media come calling and want to know what her policies are because she's been the last person in the room, the last woman in the room, as Biden has said, on every important issue during their administration when it counts for America.
No, I mean, look, past this prologue, we saw this when she ran for president back in early 2019. She can handle the scripted environments where every variable around her is controlled. But when she gets into spontaneous scenarios, needs to think on her feet, that's when it doesn't get as, she gets back on her heels. It doesn't get as pretty for her. And so that is what this press conference that Trump did, was trying to draw her out. And look, for the next 80 some odd days, she's going to try and run the clock out. You know, the open secret here in Washington is that A, she's agreed to a very simple interview with a network, and that B, she's been talking to press off the record. And the idea is you feed them off the record content so they're less likely to want as many interviews from you. And so, look, she's going to try and run the clock with a compliant press corps that follows her around, and she might just do it. It's our job to keep holding her to account.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Off the record for reporters is also off the record by definition with the public, because we can't repeat what's been said in those off-the-record conversations. It's a way to build relationships with people, and I would argue in many cases to find out who your friends are in the media. And who your enemies are if your enemies are those people who would ask you the tougher questions. None of that really serves the American public. They just have a straight up and down. It's broken now. Can you fix it? A new one column titled this: Kamala Harris wants the media to help her run out the clock. Others also weighing in on the media and what Kamala Harris's team may be thinking. Watch.
I would say this to the mainstream media. Kamala Harris is ignoring you because she thinks she already has you. She thinks the mainstream media is already in her thrall and her corner.
As she's been vice president, we've known that we've seen some kind of damaging moments when her speaking to the press. And so I think that that is something that's always been on the mind of her office and the vice president herself.
The vice president has had plenty of viral press moments, as we know, and some of them not good.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy.
We need you to be Kamala of the country.
Is the United States willing to make a specific allocation for Ukrainian refugees? And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
First question was for her. It was quite clear the second was for him. She goes first. Who needs a friend, Richard? Kamala?
Look, I think you picked a couple of press blunders every politician has, and there's also some great press moments. I know one in particular when she was in Ghana and she was asked a question about Ghana's policies towards the LGBT community, and she said right away that LGBTQ rights are human rights, and the rights that they have here in the United States should be the same rights they have in Ghana. And she said it in front of a Ghanaian president who was passing a law that was making it illegal to be gay. So I think there are moments out there where you see her stood up, and she's been very strong in front of the press. And once again, I think you'll see more moments like that at the debate with ABC. And as this campaign continues, I think right now, like I said, I think she's trying to get her campaign together. She's trying to meet delegates. She's trying to meet the voters. She's trying to get to all the battleground states. But I do think she will do an interview.
Ghana is a beautiful country filled with just wonderful people. We need for her to take questions with a different country that ends in A.
Yeah, but
America.
the clip you showed there was
I'm
from
gonna move
the clip you showed there was in Warsaw. So I'm just pointing out a clip on the foreign
not all
stage
of it.
where that the last clip was from Warsaw. I'm telling you, when she was in Ghana, she answered.
Okay, but watch the entire thing. And if you'd
I
given
was pulling
some
out
other
one
example besides the one country you did, and maybe one in our own nation, as we did in our montage,
sure. I mean, I could also
then I could
give
understand
you the interview
pushback.
she did
but
with
I
Matt
don't
Carter.
right now, and I'm going to move on.
She did an interview with Matt Carter.
The
She did an interview with
clamor
Sherry Shepard.
for Kamala Harris to answer real questions is actually getting louder. In the media, the traditional media space that her team says that they don't trust. Wall Street Journal columnist Kimberly Strausel's piece titled, "Choose Your Own Kamala," as an excerpt. Who exactly is the woman aspiring to be the world's most powerful person? That's the beauty of the Kamala Harris campaign. Who knows? The Democratic nominee has already become the political equivalent of the Choose Your Own Adventure books. The Journal's editorial board with Kamala Harris puts it this way: mystery commander-in-chief. Quote, "She is all but telling Americans that they'll have to elect her to find out what she really believes, as she ducks interviews and the media give her a free ride. This is bad enough on domestic issues, but on foreign policy, it could be perilous." Matt, I come to you. So the ducking, Richard has the point that he makes that it hasn't been that long since she's been the nominee, but we've known her for an entire presidency and vice presidency with the most important issues in our lives, like our sovereignty, our nation's sovereignty at the border.
I mean, the press follows her around to every event. It's not like she needs to, 2-week notice to do an interview. She could do an interview. And also, I'll say this too, that an interview, singular, is the bare minimum. Because what's going to happen is she's going to give an interview and do, 8 minutes, and then the media will be like, okay, great, we did it, thank you. There needs to be consistent media interactions here, answering questions, because as you talk about, she's changed her position on everything from buying back guns to decriminalizing illegal immigration to fracking. She's not had to address none of it. She has an anonymous aide talk to the press, say she's reversed her positions, and the press leaves it at that. There needs to be many questions about how she came to change her positions on a host of issues that she took when she ran for president just 4 years ago.
Gentlemen, great debate. I appreciate your time. See you next time. Thank you both.
Good to see you, Harris.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.